Parthiban Kanavu, English translation by Anand Kannan, narrated by Sujatha Anand. Book 3, Chapter 12, The Solar Eclipse. In Emperor Mahendra Pallava's days, several roadside pavilions were built for the convenience of the travelers who were traveling along thinly populated regions. Such pavilions were named after him. They were called Mahendra Mantaps. This was one such pavilion. It was fully dark when Vikraman and Ponnan entered the pavilion. Ponnan seated Vikraman on the porch in front of the pavilion and fetched him dry clothes. Vikraman changed into the dry clothes. They decided to stay there for the night, as it was impossible to resume the journey in the dark, rainy night. Ponnan narrated the following strange incident involving Queen Arulmozhi. Queen Arulmozhi found life hard after Vikraman had deported. She lived on the hope that she would see her son again. Despite that hope, she could not bear to live in the palace where she had lived happily with her husband and son. She was in such a frame of mind when General Paranjoti, also known as Sir Tondar, and his wife came to Oriyur as a part of their pilgrimage. They visited the Spring Palace to counsel her. Arulmozhi wanted to accompany them on the pilgrimage and join them on their journey. They spent the next 2 years visiting all holy sites of the Tamil region except Kanchi. Roughly a year before the episode of the last chapter, they had reached Tiruchengattangudi, General Paranjothi's birthplace, on the new moon day of the month of Thai. That year, the new moon day of Thai had an extra significance. It was going to be a total solar eclipse. On the auspicious day, people gathered at Kaveri River's estuary to take a holy dip. Ponnan and Valli had also travelled all the way from Oriyur to bathe at the river Kaveri's outflow. The reason for their travel was twofold. They wanted a break from the life at Oriyur, which they had found less enjoyable. Secondly, they had also been hoping to meet Queen Arulmozhi on the day of the solar eclipse. They were actually able to meet the Queen earlier than they had hoped at the town of Tiruchengattangudi. On the auspicious day, all of them, Paranjoti, his wife, the Queen, Valli and Ponnan, set off to bathe at the outflow of the river. When they reached the destination, they found that it was extremely crowded. It was as if the entire mankind decided to be in one place on that day. The sea of humanity also appeared to surge with joy on seeing the waves on the sea. After the ocean took the historic town of Kaveri Pumpattinam, the landscape at the outflow of the river Kaveri had changed. The river started depositing the sand where it met the sea. As a result, the seashore had become so shallow that people were able to walk in a long way into the sea to bathe. On that day, people were able to take the holy dip while enjoying the pleasure of the waves hitting them. Queen Arulmozhi, with others, entered the shallow sea waters in such a crowded environment. The solar eclipse had started and had been progressing rapidly. The tides were becoming more powerful and noisier. The light had started dimming as well. Most people felt a nameless fear when they witnessed the darkness in the middle of a cloudless, clear day. The faithful blissfully saw the scene as a marvel engineered by the force that created the universe. Paranjoti had attained such a state of bliss. Queen Arulmozhi had also closed her eyes and was in a meditative state facing east. Valli had never seen the ocean. She was fearful of the waves. Ponnan was holding on to her hand reassuringly. Valli had been proposing that they get back ashore. Ponnan was chiding her, saying, "Is this the extent of your courage?" The strange, tragic incident happened at that moment. Arulmozhi opened her eyes and shouted, "Vikrama, my child, here I come." Her voice was so loud that Ponnan and Valli could hear her over the noise of the sea. She jumped into the sea. A large wave submerged her. Ponnan and Valli screamed. Paranjoti opened his eyes and asked what the matter was. Ponnan cried, "The tide has swept the queen away." Paranjoti directed his wife and Valli to get ashore. At that moment, the eclipse was complete. They could see the stars in the sky. There was a mixture of noises. Some people panicked and called out to people around them. Others were chanting the name of God. Ponnan and Paranjodi battled the waves in total darkness, searching for Queen Arulmozhi. End of chapter 12.